There we go. Hi, everybody. I am Barb Gaborowski, and I am with JSG. We are a channel consultancy. We work with vendors like T-Mobile and with partners like Premier Wireless to help you build your business. We do a lot on the um, partner engagement side, sales, readiness, all of that, and I run our marketing practice. And this program, which is social selling, is part of our marketing practice. The whole idea behind social selling is leveraging the platforms, leveraging the places that your customers and prospects go to for information, making sure that you're there, you show up as a thought leader, and that you're building the Premier Wireless brand and the T-Mobile brand in front of those prospects and with those customers as well. I'll say for both of those. Why is that important? Because when someone is going to buy a tech or a telecom solution like what we offer, they self-direct that process. They like to go out and make themselves um, smart, do their research, find out what's out there, find out who offers it, find out what other people say about those folks, and choose the people where they want to engage the sales resources. Long gone is the time where you had a question, and so you're like, I'm going to call a salesperson and have them tell me what they know, right? Because now, with the magic of the internet, people can go get their own information and they can make their own judgments whether that information is objective and is going to meet their needs. And so we know that buyer's journey that we talk about, like from the beginning, somebody starts directing that uh, self-education to the time they engage a salesperson, they are about 2/3 to maybe now 3/4 of the way through the process. They've already know what their problem is. They've put a name to it. They've looked at different solutions and they've looked at different partners in this instance, right? Of who they want to talk with. So a lot of times people don't even know that they weren't part of the journey. Those one or two that get chosen at the end, you could have been three or four. But how do you make sure you're one of those one or two at the end? You make sure that you're being helpful in that self-education process. You make sure that your name comes up when people are looking and they're inside and they're typing away in search engines or asking Claude or on LinkedIn asking their connections, their network of people. You want to make sure your name comes up, and social selling is one of the ways to do that. Now, in our first session, we talked a lot about how to make sure, well, we talked about why it was important. And then we talked about making sure that your first impression is your best impression, which that message goes back eons, right? Making sure that your profile is updated, making sure that you're focused on those prospects and who your ideal customer is, and you're talking to them about their challenges and how you can fix them. And so we went through that in detail. We also took baseline scores of where everybody is, okay? And that was really important. So now that you're all ready and you're all fancy with your profiles, now we want to go out and find those prospects, right? So we're going to prospect, and then we're going to talk about the best way to connect with those folks. Okay. Any questions on any of that? Okay. As always, I'm going to say we have a small but mighty group here. Sometimes I do this in front of like 80 people. And so people just shouting out, that's kind of hard. But with this group and with this team, the way this team is, very family-ish, feel free because I'm looking at my camera and my slides, and you are off on the side. So if you have questions, interrupt me, stop me. I don't want to get too far down where if something isn't clear. Okay? Make sense? All right, great. So let's dig right in. Why are we not advancing? There we go. Okay. You all have, well, many of you, not everybody, but many of you have access to Sales Navigator. And that, I mean, it's truly its most important and most appropriate, I'll say, for those that are out doing the prospecting and doing the engagement with prospective customers. So we did talk also in workshop one about building account lists and your daily Sales Navigator habits. I want to go a little deeper this time. I want to talk specifically about how you can use Navigator to find, to qualify, and to connect. Now, can you do all the qualification through Navigator? Probably not. Do they have the budget? Do they have the authority? Do they have the need? Do they have the time? Do they have a project right now? Is the timing clear? Probably not, but you can at least um, take that funnel and take the ones that aren't appropriate out, right? If it's not a vertical where you're strong, if it's not the right title that you want to talk to, those kind of things, and anything that makes you more effective and more efficient in what you do is always good. Okay. Now, having said that, I need to state the obvious here, which is just because we put together an analysis and said this is absolutely our ideal uh, client profile, our ideal customer profile, and it has to be this uh, title. No, the titles these days are getting weird. We all agree on that. Like, am I the head of marketing? Am I the CMO? Am I the VP of marketing? Does it matter? Do I run marketing for a company? Does it matter? It depends on the size of the company and all those things. So I would tell you to be a little, not a lot, but a little bit more generous, especially around titling, especially as the titles get kind of wacky. I mean, there's some titles that are, the queen of fun. I've seen that. Don't laugh. I've actually seen it. So, you have to be a little open to change on some of those. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Sales Navigator, a little bit deeper on Sales Navigator. The whole thing about Sales Navigator, why it's good for Premier Wireless, is it isn't just direct buyer access, because you can get kind of a lot of that on just the premium pieces. The other thing, you're able to map, okay? You're able to map like the government agencies, the districts, the healthcare organizations, even those you already serve, so that you can get deeper within those organizations. Can't remember if I said this in our last session or not, but remember I just talked about that buyer's journey and how so much of it for people that don't know you, and even some of the people that do know you, is self-directed. They don't want to talk to a salesperson, and that's fine. This is where marketing really comes in, right? Making sure the right information's out there, making sure you have what you need to post on your LinkedIn. But the other piece about this is um, that there's up to, and this is in the US, and this is based on research from Demandbase and 6sense and one other company that I can't think of off the top of my head, but I think I have them quoted in here, so you can get that information. There are somewhere between 8 and 11 people that are part of that buying committee. Okay, 8 to 11 people. Think about who you're selling to today. Have you identified the 8 to 11 people within all of those organizations? Probably for longtime customers, right? Who's going to be making the financial decision, who may be blocking your access to the right people, who's going to make it, from how high up in the organization it needs to go. But I'm going to tell you, I do a lot of these classes. I do a lot of, marketing education in general. And people are really amazed by the fact that there's really that many people influencing those sales. And so you want to make sure, and this is something that is just beautiful about Navigator, is that you can say, here's an organization where I'm doing business or where I want to do business. Now, who are the decision makers in that? And it'll populate that. Now, don't take it at face value. All of these tools that we have are really good, but they still rely on the best tool at all, your brain, right? to say, is this the right person? I know that if you know the organization, I know the organization. What about so and so? But it gives you all of that information. Okay. So you're able to really dig within that organization. And then for each of those people, you can get a full profile view. And I mean full, right? In your free version, you get, someone in tech looked at your profile or something like that. In the premium version, you get the name, the title, the company. If you go look then in Navigator, you get what they've posted, where they've posted. You can add them to a list. You can see what they're doing within LinkedIn, which is going to be really valuable in our workshop 3 when we talk about engaging. That's one of the best things about Navigator, is that it gives you that next level down of information on current customers, got to stay with them, and then with prospects. Okay. So Navigator is, it's definitely investment. I say this all the time. I don't want to gloss over the fact that it's not inexpensive, but it can be super valuable for those that want to expand within their existing accounts and grow with new accounts. Okay. And by the way, a lot of research done by Microsoft, by LinkedIn, reps that have really high social index scores that are using Navigator are 45%, generate 45% more opportunities, and they are significantly 51% more likely to hit quota. And there's all kinds of facts and figures around their ability to make President's Club. Believe it or not, they actually looked at that. I think that's because they want to say that to sellers, because while the money's good, people like to do those special treats there. Much more likely to achieve quota, much more likely to versus traditional sellers. So there's a lot of research on that as well. Okay. Why do you want, even a premium is better than the free version, and that's not inexpensive either. I'll say that out loud, but the free version gives you just the highest level information just to keep you around. Like I said, for profile views, premium will give you name, title, company. When you're prospecting, Sales Navigator gives you the ability to filter by roles, by region, by industry, by intent, by what they're talking about. Free just gives you very basic. Okay. Directs access to buyers. Premium, you get more in-mail opportunities. So even if somebody hasn't connected with you yet, you can send them a message through the platform. Free, you don't get to do that unless you're connected. Sales Navigator, like I said.
The good news is every one of our sellers has Sales Navigator. So they've got the best of the
awesome.
best.
Yep. So Lee, don't react when they react to this question, but for the sellers on the call, are you setting up and tracking accounts today, like your existing accounts versus new ones? Okay. So that's what we're going to set up in our next session. This one, we're kind of full on time. Okay. But in our next session for the sellers, everybody else, you should get on there too, because you want to see what they're doing, right? But we will talk about setting up lists of prospects, setting up lists of current customers, and then how to track that every day and how to use it to engage. Okay. Is everybody good with that? Shake your heads up and down. That's good. Okay, perfect. So when we talk about insight and buying signals, I do want to spend 1 minute on this. I want you to think about this before our next session, okay? I'm already getting to workshop 3. We haven't even gotten through workshop 2 yet, but let me tell you about this. So keep this in mind. There are triggers. There are intent signals. We like to make that fancy. Intent signals that would lead you to believe that somebody is going to make a change. Somebody's going to add a solution. Somebody's going to do something different. It happens in all businesses, right? In my business, in the consulting business, marketing consulting with channel partners and vendors, I have lists set up where I say, has the marketing lead changed, right? Has the channel marketing lead changed specifically in a vendor organization, right? Has a partner organization taken on a vendor as part of their solution portfolio? Has there been a change in sales leadership? I love those triggers because somebody always comes in and wants to relook at things. Somebody always comes in and is open to talking about things. To me, that's really important. I'd like you to think before our next session, which is next Friday, by the way, already scheduled. I'd like you to think about your customers, if you're serving existing customers, or your prospective customers, your ideal customer profile, and think about what some of those triggers might be. And then when we set up our prospect lists, we will set those up and include those triggers. Okay. All right. Everybody's okay with that? I'm assuming you are. Okay, great. All right. Let's move on and talk about prospecting. Talk about how do we find these people that we want to find. Sorry, I have something on my desk there. Okay. So, you're I don't know why the font got so big on this slide. I'm going to fix that so it doesn't run off the page. Right? Something new. But your ICP varies by vertical quite a bit, right? In public safety, you're targeting police chiefs, sheriffs, those folks, agency IT directors, emergency managers. In education, you're talking to superintendents, school technology directors. All of those titles are very different, and they should be, right? And I think you all have a really good view of who those folks are. Okay. We want to make sure that when you're going to look to search on LinkedIn, you know where you're going to focus. And I want you to think about it right now. Just think about if you have a specific vertical that you're going after now, think about that vertical and think about the characteristics of that vertical, like how big are they, where are they located, that kind of thing. And think about the titles within that company that you want to talk to. That's what I want you to think about now, because we're going to go through and we're going to do some searching, and I want you to be able to put it in. Okay. And we're going to search. You can search in Sales Nav if you want, but you can also do it just in plain old LinkedIn. Okay. The reason that we want to be able to go out and find these people is because, as I said earlier, they don't want to find us early on. Only like 29% of B2B buyers really want to hear from a salesperson unsolicited. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be talking to them. That just means, they may not answer your phone call. Come on, how often, if you get a phone call and you don't know who it's from, right? There's no name on it. More than likely, it's going to say likely spam or something along those lines. And more than likely, you're like voicemail. So those folks, that's going to be hard, right? So we want to make sure that we're positioning you properly first. And so then when they get that voicemail message, they're like, oh, Barb Gavorowski. I wondered how to say her last name. She was saying some pretty cool things about how social selling can help. I might call her back. I'm going to put her on my list, right? So we're going to have you prospect. We're going to have you do that reach out. We're even maybe going to talk about making that phone call. But first we have to find them. Okay. So know who you're going after. Already know what their pain points are. So when you create content, you're going to talk to those challenges that they have about your solutions. Make sure you know what solution is going to be the right one. And then most importantly, know what differentiates you from the competition. Now we're going to use a lot of these in our next session, but you should already be thinking about that. Okay. Should already be thinking about why you're better, and think about who your competition is. I will be frank, and I bet Lee's going to be frank about this too. Certainly your competition is those that sell red or blue, if you know what I mean, right? That's selling other solutions, right? But there could also be other channel partners that also sell Magento, right? That you come up against. Think about who you come up against in the sales world when you're out there, right? And make sure we don't want to disparage anybody. That's not the way we play, right? But we do want to talk about why we're better, and specifically why we're better than somebody. So if somebody doesn't have as broad of a portfolio, if somebody's portfolio isn't as deep within a vertical market, we want to be able to say those things and say them with confidence. So I want you to think about that as well as we go forward. All right, so let's talk about how do we find these folks? Okay. When you go, you can open up your LinkedIn right now, because I know you're all on a computer, because that's what you're looking at. When you look at your LinkedIn and you go to the search bar at the top, it's actually over on the left for most people. We use something called Boolean search, and that's because it was created by, I think his name is Nick Boolean, but I might be wrong on what his actual name is. This kind of search is valuable in almost any searching you do on the internet, like Google search, anything else, right?
I'm gonna pop in and say, y'all take notes, write these things down. This is the difference of finding and not finding. It is tremendously useful in like if you're Googling on Google or you're linking on LinkedIn.
Yep, absolutely. I honestly, I think people take this slide. I'm going to send you the deck. I think people take this slide out of the deck and just leave it on their desk. They do because it's so valuable. Most of us use like I want an IT director and wireless solutions, right? That most people do that. Okay. But how often do you use or not, or an asterisk, or those other things? I'm going to go through all of these. All right. So here's the thing. The idea here is to not have, believe it or not, a million people on your list, a million people that are okay. The idea here is to get to the right list of 100 that you actually are actually the right people for you to be prospecting with. Okay, so let me go through each of these filters, okay, or not filters, or conjoiners, because it's both. Okay, and is the easiest one. And narrows results, okay, because both terms must appear. By the way, if you use quotation marks, which I'll talk about in a second, it has to appear exactly like that. Okay, so in this example, IT director has to be IT director. Remember what I said earlier about the fact that it could be director of IT, it could be director, comma, IT, it could be IT director, it could be senior director IT. There's a million of those. So just think about that. But if I say it has to be IT director and wireless solutions, the only results that are going to show up are exactly those two words in that order, and it also has to have wireless solutions in that order. So you see how that narrows. If I just said IT director, wireless solutions, it would be any of those words. Okay, so and narrows it down or broadens it. Okay, so here's my example here. CIO or IT director or procurement manager. Any of those titles will show up. So let me go back to another even more simple example. IT director or director IT or director of IT or director, comma, IT. It would be any of those. Now, if I put and in between those, it would have to be all of those, and that wouldn't happen, and I bet you'd get a big zero. Okay? So think about this. Think about it as I'm going through these, because I'm going to say, hey, go find somebody, go put something in and see what you find. Okay? By the way, you're doing this when the results pop up, it'll tell you if you're already connected or if you're, the degree of connection as well. Okay, so and or, pretty simple. Not, or using the minus symbol, not the M dash symbol, the minus symbol under the M dash symbol, excludes terms. Okay. So if I want somebody that says they're in public safety technology, but I don't want an intern, right? Because they're probably not in the buying decision, use the term not, or you can use the minus sign. Okay. Make sense? All right. Quotation marks, as I already said, exact phrase. Okay. It has to be exactly that. Be careful with quotation marks, but sometimes they're really useful. Okay. Parentheses. This is where it gets to be like algebra. Does everybody like algebra? I loved algebra. Geometry, not so much. Very spatially challenged. Algebra, I love. Think of this as grouping terms for really complex solutions. So perhaps I want wireless solutions or 5G connectivity or public safety commissions or IoT. And I want, so it's any of those things. And I want them to be an IT decision maker. So it's CIO or IT director or agency director or procurement. That you'll get somebody that can be very solution aware. Okay. So think of, it's, what do you call it? Order of operations a little bit. There's no multiplication in this though, or division. So you don't have to worry about that. No square roots. No, not that. All right. No differentials, but you go across. All right. Make sense? Okay. Asterisk is a placeholder for unknown characters or endings. So if you want partner and then you put the star next to it, then you could have partners, partnership, just plain partner, partnering. Sorry, I have to look around my laptop there. Partnering. I'm going to tell you where the asterisk works really well is if you don't know like how to spell the end of something. Okay. Like whatever that is. An asterisk really works well when you're not sure how many other things can go with that. All right. It's like a wild card. Okay. And then the one I use the least, but it's pretty cool, is near. Like I want to see words that are close to other words, but it doesn't have to be in the exact order. Okay. So I say network upgrade near IT planning, right? Or within 5, and if I put near then /5, it would give it within 5 words. Okay. So I don't see a ton of people using this, but it could be very useful depending upon what results you see when you do your first list pull. Okay. You might go, no, they're talking about wireless solutions, but they're talking about two-way radios or something that you're not interested in. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. You can, when you're using the or, I'm just going to do some best practices here. When you use the or term, use synonyms for words if you can't think of all of the words that go with it. And by the way, you'd be surprised like what people call each other or what they use for wireless solutions or something along that line. So or really helps you to avoid missing results. When you use and, it really narrows things down. So think about that before you use it. Parentheses keep your logic really clean. Quotation marks are great for multi-word job titles or company names or product names, but be careful when you're using it around descriptors because it could really eliminate opportunities. All right. And then know that LinkedIn, Google, job boards, they all use this Boolean search a little differently. You're going to laugh when I say this. But whenever I use and or not, any and or not, or even near, I don't use near too often. I always capitalize it because I think if you use it in lowercase, it doesn't work. Now, that could just be the quirks of the different systems, but it makes me feel better when I use it capital. Check. Make sure,
I'm
by the
just going
way,
to say, Barb,
yeah,
I get different results. So I believe that when you use lowercase it ignores it. And I was trained in a Microsoft, and I don't know if it's changed, but the capital is what makes it the using it as capitals triggers it and makes it search differently.
I,
So I would
so
say for everybody, always put
use
the and and
capitals,
the or
caps.
in caps. And I would also say when using the quotations, when you know for sure exactly what it is you are looking for, putting something in quotations will get you to the fastest point of finding your information. When you're just looking for more open searches, leaving it unquoted will, as Barb said, give you the various options: director of, IT director.
Yep. And keep in mind too that sometimes people put things in and they don't even call things the right, so when you're using, I don't know, T-Mobile 5G, some people may say 5G T-Mobile, so you want to be conscious of that. So I 100% agree with Lee on that. This is a great tool though to keep on your desktop when you're doing any searching, LinkedIn, Google, any of those. And what else can I tell you about this?
Curious on my team, who has been searching this way, or for who is this really new? Amanda, new or you've been searching?
I've been searching, yeah.
Okay. Who else?
I've
Melissa,
been
you were raising
searching.
It's
your hand.
it's new to me.
Good. I like when it's new, by the
Me
way.
too.
So yeah,
Yeah,
because
this
that
is new
makes
to
me
me.
feel
This
like
is new to me also.
good. Good.
When we get off the call today, we're going to do something and actually go try it. And if not today, we'll do it on Monday. But you will be amazed at the difference of what you get from a results perspective.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go on to do some prospecting. Okay. So I made up a really complicated search. You don't have to do that search. I'm going to make you do it now. Lee will do it with you on Monday. I'm going to make you do one now. But go in and just do a search for whoever is relevant in your life. All right. Because we're trying to use the search functionality. It's great if we could start getting some prospects, but not everybody on here I know is prospect driven. So, it could be, people you need to connect with to do great customer service, or, to learn more about Premier
I was going to
Wireless,
say,
or
from an ops standpoint, there really is a good use case. There are times when we need to find someone else in the organization. I can't tell y'all how many times y'all come and said, do you know anyone else? And this will give you a path to, you now know someone else.
and what it does. So while you're doing that, I'm speaking to you, so I know that you're all doing the work. Here's the other thing that comes out of it. Then once you get the list, it tells you all the people, you can refine that list. You could say, okay, who's already connected to me? I already know them. And I know sometimes you're connected with somebody because, I don't know, they sounded good and you don't really know them. Happens all the time, happens to the best of us. That's okay. But it could be somebody that you forgot about, right? You can also say, wow, they're a second connection, but Lee already knows them and I want to know him. So Lee can do an introduction. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. So hold on to that thought. Then you can also say, okay, I wanted somebody that's a CIO or IT director, or an agency director, a procurement manager, whatever you put in yours, right? And I want somebody at, school district 205. That's my school district. So that's why I said it, at 205. And when you say that, sometimes they work at 205 now, but sometimes they worked at 205 before, right? So you can say, okay, I only want those that are at 205 now because I want to go talk to them. All right. So you can refine it that way. Or you can say, oh, you used to be at 205, but now you're at 213. That's great. I'd love to talk to 213, right? So, hey, when you were at 205, we did this, but what do we do over there? And then, of course, you want to take out people that are outside of your geographic territory if that's important to you. And if they're not super active on LinkedIn, if they don't have a lot of connections, if they don't have a lot of followers, you may or may not be interested in them. Now, I am still interested in them. I am still interested in them. And we'll talk more about not only how to connect, but how to engage with them. And it may not be on this platform. We may need to do it in a different way, but that's why you need to look at this. By the way, if you're searching right now within the LinkedIn app and not Sales Nav, if you do it in Sales Navigator, which is up in the corner, up in the right-hand corner, you can save that search and then it will keep searching for you every day. It searches for people that match that saved search criteria. And then every day you can go in and say, oh, look, there's Barb Gavrowski. I think I need to go reach out to her. And you'll use everything we talked about the rest of the 2 sessions to do that. Okay. So that's what's really nice about Sales Nav. For those of you that don't have Sales Navigator, that's okay too. Doing a search is pretty simple. You can go in once a week and look for new people. Okay. All right. Anybody have any trouble with doing a search? Anybody want to share anything? Okay, great.
No.
Perfect. So one of the things that I'm sure Lee wants you to do, that I'd like you to do, and T-Mobile would love you to do, over time, by the time we get, by the time we meet next week, I'd like you to go out and get a list of 5 to 10, and I can't remember how many I actually asked for, prospects, if that's what's appropriate to you. For those of you that aren't in sales, figure out what's appropriate for you. People that you can actually go do a connection request to and then engage with, because that's what we're going to do. So I want 10 people, new people that you're not currently connected with and that match your ICP, your ideal customer profile. Okay. All right. So there are other ways other than just doing that searching that when you're doing prospecting, I want you to think about. Okay. So one of the things is start with your current customers on LinkedIn. Okay. And then say, okay, well, gosh, I love working with, I guess I'm going to be my only example today. I love working with Lee Bogle. I personally love working with Lee. So I'm going to go to Lee's profile and I'm going to see who she's connected with, as long as she's sharing that. Right. And I'm going to say who that Lee is connected with, what I like to be connected with. And then I could ask Lee to help me connect with them, right? So, but first, and we were just talking about prospecting here. So who is she connected with? And why is she connected with people like that, right? So using your existing network to find other prospects, really great way to do this, okay? Another way, Lee is my friend, but what about my competition? What if I went over to another marketing consultant in the channel space and I said, who are they connected to? And what are they doing? And, oh, they're connected with Susie Snowflake. I'm not connected with Susie Snowflake. Maybe I need to connect with Susie. So this platform is powerful and there's a lot of information behind it. You could certainly do the more, first phase is always doing that search. A second phase is looking within your own, but also get some competitive information. Why are people connected with your competition and not you? Then look at centers of influence. Look at those people that are influencing the people in within the organizations that you want to go after. So for me, you should all follow Jay McBain. Jay McBain is a tech
God.
telecom channel. What was that?
I said, he's God. He's Michelle's husband, but he's God.
Yes. Okay, I just need to tell you a funny story because you're going to laugh at this one, Lee. I was listening to a podcast this morning. I had a drive back from out of town. So I was listening to a podcast this morning. Vince Menzione, he does a lot with Microsoft. And all of a sudden this woman gets on and she's talking and I'm like, I know this voice. It was Michelle McBain. I'm like, what is she doing on here? I didn't even know she was on there. Anyway, Jay McBain is a center of influence, but he also talks about centers of influence. So you should be following Jay McBain. Okay. Now, Jay is connected with, I don't know, 50 million people. I made that up, but a lot of people. But think of him and he's influencing people in our space. Who is highly connected? Who is he connected with? Now, you don't have to go with somebody that's like as Lee said. He's a god in the space. But think, if you're working with school districts in, in Houston, who is at center of influence in school districts in Houston? Maybe the head of the school board, maybe the mayor, maybe, somebody else. Go look at their LinkedIn. Who are they connected with? In our business, in the tech telecom business, influence is money. Okay. Influence, more important than digital marketing, more important than, email marketing, directly impacts your ability to gain new customers, is that circle of
Amanda?
influence. So
Yep.
you want to be
Amanda,
following people.
that is
Yeah.
kind of on a different scale, but to a certain degree. That is what happened to your post that when you went to the conference this week, right? Because you were tagged in there with the Five Musketeers, but then you touched their circle of influence, which is how because we talked about this morning, Barb, and she got new people that followed her, liked her, and that have now come and want to be part of her ecosystem, who will now see her post. And will every one of them be your customer? No, but you don't know who will be.
Exactly. I love that. Amanda, bravo. That's
Thank
great.
you. Go
That's
for the
great.
That's the
cowboy
most
hat.
impressions she's ever had. She had over 1,800 impressions.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Thank you. It was
Oh
the
my
cowboy
gosh.
hat.
We'll talk more about when we talk about content next week and, engagement. We'll talk more about how to get there. But the best is, I'm telling you, these live events are still, as much as we want to use AI and platforms and internet and everything else, being at a live event and creating relationships with others, tagging them, huge, huge. I'm going to go check it out after this. Okay, so centers of influence, important. Make sure you know who they are so that you can look at who they're connected with. Your internal team. If you're going after the ABC company, go to ABC company when you do you're going to do your searching, but you could just go to their website, hit people, not their website, their LinkedIn corporate page. That's what I meant. You could also go to their website, but go to their LinkedIn corporate page, hit people. It'll tell you all the people that are connected, with that organization, and then see how many of them are connected to people at Premier. You got people right here who would love to introduce you. Take advantage of that. Okay. And then make sure that you're
Before
go
you
ahead.
go on from there, Barb, I want to make sure everybody knows what we're talking about. So I'm gonna grab the screen because
Go
I
ahead.
think this is really important, and I don't want to make the assumption that everyone knows exactly what we're talking about. Okay, just stop my silly little search bar up there. So somebody, Amanda Mario or Rob, give me the name of a company that you want to talk to, that you want to work with.
Borton and Sons.
Say that again.
Borton, Borton, and Sons. And they're out of Yakima, Washington, or Union Gap maybe, but it's
Okay.
Yep.
They're
So
farmers.
I'm going to come here. These tabs right here are exactly what Barb is talking about. And so if I click people, I now see who the people are, and it would pop up and it would tell me if any of them were connected to people. You can see third, second. I don't have anybody who's a first. But this person, Eric Burton, who happens to be director of business, let's see who I know that is connected to him. Eric has no recent posts. The other thing this tells me is he doesn't post a lot, which is something that's really interesting when I go look at him. So he's not always my best candidate to reach via LinkedIn because he may not be on here very often. But then when I go and I look at his, whoops, hang on. Go back here. when I come back in here and I want to look at connections.
Why is it? Yeah, why the person that
He
you're,
has them to where they can't be shared.
yeah, some people
So-
do that.
He's not making them enabled to be shared. But I could go in here and connect. But I'm going to go pull up Rob, for example, right now, because I happen to know Rob and I know that I'm connected to him. And I could go to Premier Wireless and find all the people, but you get an idea as to where you can go to find people. I'm going to show you something else, though, also is Rob's connections are blue, so they're not hidden. But and here's where I can see all the people that we would be potentially connected with. But let me show you what else you can do. And Barb, you may have to take over from here because I'm sure you know how, and it's been a minute since I've done it.
Hmm.
So I may be a moment outside of being able to do it. You can come in here and now look for
Mhm.
other people.
Yep.
And I can't do it. I'm having a brain glitch. So if you will show them how to go find your ideal, you can find a client or you can find a competitor or you can find a vendor. Amanda, you could go sleuth Adam. Because I promise you, Adam gets on LinkedIn and he goes and he finds his contacts. You can go to Rob, and you can go see who are all the people that he's connected to. And you can go like and comment those people and just say, hey, I saw that you and Rob are connected. I work and support Rob every day. So while T-Mobile has the network, we provide a lot of the other hardware and resources, and we're an added value to T-Mobile. Would love to connect with you. That's really long and windy and not what I would truly want to say. But it is a powerful way to fill your network with the people that you want.
Yep. Let me just go through. So, oh, Lee and I are already connected. So, and I can see, here's the other thing. I can see that we have a lot of people in common. Okay. 48 people because we're in the same industry, right? So that's everybody that we have in common. So I just looked up Lee, but let me go back and look at, instead of looking at Lee, who I'm already connected with, Rob. I am not connected with Rob. Is it you? That's not you. See, here's another thing. Rob Pineda is a common name. So you got to make sure you're getting the right one when you do it by name. Let's do that again. Let me do
Roberto.
this.
It's gonna have my full name as Roberto in there.
Oh,
That's
Roberto.
why.
Okay. But let me see this. So now I'm back to Lee. I don't think Lee doesn't share her second. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So Lee is not sharing so that I can't look at her second level connections. But now let me go back to, let me see something here. The most connected person I know, Janet, who's the CEO, 25,000 almost followers, right?
I only have 6,500. I
Yeah.
want to be Janet.
Who doesn't want to be Janet? Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, she's not doing hers either. God, all you people, you're killing me. All right. Now I'm going to Roberto. But I'm going to spell his name correctly. Oh, Roberto. If you were Irish, it would be Oh, Roberto.
There he is.
Nope, not in there. Okay, let me go back.
He was there.
Yeah, no, let me do this. I was looking within Janet's thing here.
Yeah.
I should know because he looks so handsome in that very professional suit. Look at that beautiful profile. Okay, so we're not connected, but we do have a lot of people in common, 8 people, 10 people in common. So, and let's see if he's sharing his. La la la. No. Nobody's sharing their second levels anymore. I probably can't get to it because we're not
Find this.
connected. However, having said that, this is going to be important because the people that like he knows Alicia Richter. Okay. So many of us know her because she's with T-Mobile, things like that. If I wasn't on the phone with him every other week, and if I didn't know Lee, I would actually go out, and we'll talk about this in a minute, and I would say, Alicia, could you please do an intro to Rob? That's how we do that. So that's why you want to go in and look at those different folks. Let me go back to getting us through this. Let me go back to, I'm going to stop sharing for 1 minute just so I could share the right pieces of the, I'm not sure. Okay, here we go. We're going to go back to the presentation. Okay. Okay, so I talked about all the different ways to look at people's connections as much as you can, but now you saw that they've changed something in there that unless you're really connected and unless somebody's giving you permissions, not presentations, permissions, it's really hard to get past those first level connections. Though first level connections give you a lot of information. Let me just say that, right? Like the third level connection wouldn't give you anything anyway to them, but first level connections are still very valuable. Okay, because we're going to talk about connecting next, the reason I want you to be able to know who is in between you with somebody else or who they're connected to is because warm introductions really generate a higher response rate than a cold network outreach. And I would ask you, just think about yourselves. When you get somebody that wants to connect you on LinkedIn, what's the first thing you do? You say, am I connect? Well, you may accept them right away. I stopped doing that because a lot of times it's people that want to sell me a franchise and I'm not interested in doing franchises. I will never do a franchise. It's not who I am. Okay. So you may want to do franchises, but I do not. Right. Or it's somebody that wants to sell me solutions that I already do. So those folks, I very nicely, because I believe in karma, decline the invitation. And I just say, hey, we're in the same business. I don't see a connection. But if if somebody said, Barb, I think you should talk to this franchise rep, they have some interesting things, I would probably connect with them because if it was Janet or Lee or Rob or Mario now, because Mario's my new friend today, if any of you did it, I might do that. Warm introductions generate better response rates. And the average response rates on a connection request are somewhere between, depending upon the day, 2 and 10% if they're really cold. All right. So that's why you want to do what we all do best in sales, which is networking. Who do you know? When I start talking to somebody, it's the first thing. Oh, where are you from? Amanda and I did that this morning. Oh, where are you from? Oh, Northeast Ohio. I go, oh, Youngstown. She's like, how do you know Youngstown? I know some people that used to work there. We didn't get there, but Cardinal Mooney, is it? Cardinal Mooney's the Catholic high school there. There you go. I know people that went to Cardinal Mooney. So, but that's what we do, right? That's what we do. We connect with people because at the end of the day, this is a personal business. And that's what you're trying to have this platform help you do. Okay, so now let's talk about connecting. Okay, so now you found a list of people that you want to go after, right? I want to make sure that what we're doing is going to be the most efficient and effective for the time you're investing here. So using a tool like LinkedIn and using some of the techniques I'm going to talk about really help you get that connection. And once you have the connection, then you don't have permission to sell. I want to be really clear, but you do have permission to engage. To just do that initial reach out. Thank you for connecting. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but we want to make sure that when you get to true engagement, it's with the right people at the right time. Less than 2% of all cold calls actually result in a meeting, and 91% of B2B tech and telecom buyers say they will never respond to cold outreach by itself. Think about yourself. Think about how many emails you get every day that you immediately delete because they're not relevant and they're absolutely cold. We all do it. So how do we know that we're going to do this the right way to establish the right relationships to establish that trust? Well, LinkedIn can tell you if you do it the right way, it will generate more than 3x the number of leads that any other social platform. And so that's why this is important. By the way, I always cite my sources. If you want more information, please look in the lower left-hand corner and you could look at those. Okay, so when you're going to do that outreach, the people that you're talking to, whether they're influencers or prospects or even current customers, need to know that it's going to be a valuable connection. Okay, so they're gonna make that decision based on your engagement with their content or posts or commentary, based on what you share on your profile, and based on your network, who you're connected with. So we want to make sure that all of those things are moving along, right? So that they say, that is a person of value. Now, of course, we're all people of value, but I mean, if I'm going to spend time connecting with somebody, that's somebody I want to connect with. So here's the best practices, especially for influencers and prospects. Make sure you follow them first. There's a difference between following and connecting. Connecting gives you permission to go back and forth and talk. Following means you're just going to see what they're posting. Okay, that's what it is. Engage with their posts before you send a request because they'll see the engagement on their posts. And this is, of course, if they're posting people. The person from the farming organization that we talked about, he's not on a lot. That doesn't mean he's not looking at other people post, by the way, but he doesn't post. So you probably wouldn't do that. You could still follow him. He'd get notification of it, but you're not going to be able to engage with posts if they don't post. I get it. Okay. The reason if they are posting, you want to engage with their post, not just write a comment, is because your name will be familiar when the connection request comes over. Okay. Second, you want to do a social warm-up, okay? That connection should be, as I said, not just a like, but should share their post if it's relevant. I know I probably don't have to say this, but let me say this. Everything you do should be authentic, okay? We don't make things up. We're not those people. We're not doing things that aren't genuine. Okay, so always be genuine, always be authentic, always represent your company very well. Okay, so if their post is relevant, share it, tag them in that, comment thoughtfully. That creates this social interaction that they're like, oh, I like this person. And by the way, sharing somebody's content, big win, big win. Okay, always personalize the connection request. Never use the default, I'd like to connect, unless I'm going to say this. If I'm on the phone with Rob right now and we're talking and I say, hey, Rob, I'm going to send you a connection request. Then you don't have to make something up there. I'm talking to Rob and I'm going to do it. Rob, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to connect with you after I'm finished presenting. I'd appreciate it if you would accept my request. Mario, I'm going to connect with you as well. As a matter of fact, I'm going to connect with all of you on this afterwards, but I am not going to send you a personalized request. I think it's perfectly okay to do that, okay? Because we already have some interaction, right? When you are personalizing the request and you're not talking to somebody live, make sure that you mention a shared group or a shared event or a mutual connection or something you have in common. Create that bond. Reference something specific from their content or their company news. By the way, you don't have to do all three of these. Do what feels right. Keep it very short, a sentence or two max. And don't sell. Don't sell. I have something I want to sell you. That's the best way to not get a connection request. All right. But hey, we're in the same industry. And I saw that you were at, IT Expo. I wish our paths would have crossed. Can we connect? Perfect. That's it. Okay. Something that connects you, something that refers back to, you know, what you do in the same circles. Okay. Now there's three. That's just personalize and request. That's like the simplest one. There's a couple of other ones that I'll go through: the referral message, the mutual connection message, and an activity-based message. I'll go through all of those. Just remember, you're going to get this deck, so you're going to have all these. You can look through them as you get to them. Okay, so the referral message is when you are asking for a connection and you have people in common, right? But maybe you're not tagging that person in the connection request. Hey, I saw your LinkedIn profile and I saw the positive things that, you know, Lee Bogle said about you. And I thought, you know what, we should connect. When Lee said you are the greatest human being ever, I said, yep, that's the type of person I want to connect with. I thought we could connect. And by the way, I did not say Lee told me to connect with you, because Lee did not tell me to connect with them. But I did see that Lee left a recommendation or something like that. Okay. So again, if I was close enough with Lee, I could say, hey, Lee, can you introduce me to Rob? Rob, I'm sorry, I'm using you as the example all day today, but I am. Can you connect me with Rob? Then I'm putting burden on Lee to do that, right? But I mean, that's even more authentic, right? Because Lee's saying it. Here, it shows that I looked at their profile and I read through it, and that I'm also connected with somebody who's, that apparently they have a relationship with. Okay. So this is another way to do a connection request. Okay. Now, this one, mutual connections, when you've been around as long as I have, this one I use a lot, because maybe it's somebody for me at Motorola, at Zebra, at any one of the Bell companies that I worked for. You know, I've been around a lot. So a lot of times people pop up and I'm like, how can I not be connected to so-and-so when we were both at Motorola at the same time? And we have 187 connections together. So I don't assume that I know them. I say, hey, I hope you're doing well. I'm trying to expand my network. And I noticed that we're both connected to Lee. Or we have so many mutual, how can we not be connected? We have 187 connections together, right? Something like that. Those I think work really well, right? So for you guys, when you work in areas where that network is tight, this would be really helpful, right? This would be really helpful. You belong in that community of public safety, or education, those things. Those communities are tight. So when you have a lot of connections, it means you're part of the group. Okay. So that's another way to do it. A third way is to say, hey, I saw what you posted, shows that you looked at their profile, shows you're doing your homework. And I love what you posted about whatever that is. And the reason I love it is because, I do a lot of social selling work too, and that algorithm is changing a lot. So we need to teach people how to be seen on LinkedIn. That would be my version, right? Or, hey, I really like what you wrote about this. And I realize that we're not connected. Can we connect? Okay. So that's 3 additional ways to show that you're going to be a valuable connection, to show that you're not a crazy person. Okay. Like you're not just trying to sell them something, right? And to set the relationship off on the right foot. All right. Any questions on those? Okay. On the
One
bottom
thing
of
I
each
would
of
put
these.
in there,
Mhm.
one other thing I would add to that, Barb. Telling somebody you like something, then I'm going to speak for somebody who gets, if I showed you my InMail and my connection request on a daily basis, oh my God, it's insane. And they're all salespeople, so I don't really want to talk to them. I don't have time. That said, what gets my attention, and let me just say, it's the same thing as on the phone. And Margaret has seen me totally do a 360 with somebody when this happens. connect. If you see something that they posted or you see something about in their company or their organization on the news. But let's just go with what's posted, so we're keeping it on social media. And they posted about ABC XYZ. And you come back and you say, "Hey Barb, I know I saw your post the other day and I'm really curious. Is it blank or is it blank?" Make it a provocative question
Great
and then
idea.
carry on a conversation with them. A provocative question is so freaking different than what I get 80 million times a day of. But it's got to be real. It's got to be there's got to be
It has to be
transparency and
genuine.
honesty in it. You've got to be genuine. If it's placated, you'll get nothing from it, and the social media karma gods will throw up on you.
I
They
love
will.
that
They're
too.
evil.
Yep. I love that provocative question. I'm totally going to steal that from her. And the next time I do this, I'm going to say, ask a provocative question. So just so you know, that's how we learn. And I think another thing that Lee said that's really important, go look at all the connection requests you get and say, would I respond to this? Yes or no? Because all of us, especially those of us that sell, right? We get sold to all the time too. What works best? Think about that. What works best? Maybe next
Original.
time I'm going to add this too. And I know we only have a week. Next time, bring the most abrasive outreach, like the worst outreach that you got from somebody. And we can share those and we could laugh about those for 5 minutes at the beginning. Okay. That's what we're going to do because there are some good ones in there. I'll find a couple of examples too. Okay. So
I'm going to go
I'm
back
going to give
before you do this. I'm going to go back because we can actually do Mario. He does not have all his people in witness protection. So
that was
I
good.
clicked on
Thank
Mario.
you.
Right, so I'm going to come back up here. Okay, y'all know where I went. I'm not going to do that. And all of a sudden, I then go to his second. I clicked on his connections. His connections are open. I now see he's got CEO of Blackwire. That's probably somebody I want to connect with. General manager. So I can click on them and see. And I can also see I've got other people. I have 12 mutual connections, 8 mutual connections, 123 mutual connections. Betsy, Mark Landiak. But this is the
Oh my
software. So
gosh.
that's a blast from the past and then some. So anyways, you can go to your other vendors and other salespeople, and there's also filters that you can go over to the right hand side and you can filter for some different things that you can drill down in. It is a great way to build a prospect list of finding out, like, especially, let me just say, Mario, you used to work for Verizon. Next time Verizon has an outage, go find your friends at Verizon and go find their customer list and go tell them, say, "Hey, I used to work at Verizon. I'm over at T-Mobile now because of blank, blank, blank. Would love an opportunity to talk to you about blank, blank, blank,
Yeah.
blank. I know there have been network issues. We're not having them. Blank, blank, blank." Just saying.
Just saying.
Just saying.
Um,
The other thing is, and I want y'all to pause and think about this. Mario, how many Verizon contacts do you have in your contact list, do you think? Amanda, how many
got it.
T-Mobile contacts do you have? Rob, how many US Cellular ones do you have? The point isn't about the people that are like fish for you to prospect them, except to find out who they're connected to. But the point is, we as a human culture, like to be liked, and we like to be liked by the people we know. So we're like, "Melissa, will you connect with me?" Mario, you came. We all connected with you because we all work together. We want to say we're a happy family. But guess what? your superintendents that you're looking to reach, your general managers of transportation companies, your whatever industry you are in, they connect with other industry people just like them and their vendors who we want for our clients as well. Your customers' contacts are just as good of a referral base for you. And you will find other people that you want to know. And if it's somebody who was your client and they're happy with you. So, Betsy, one of my thoughts is Oak Lawn. When we were on the call the other day talking about GPS, they didn't start telling us what they wanted. And they wanted GPS, right? They're a new customer and stuff. She spent the first 2 minutes telling me how fabulous. So I didn't share that back. But she spent the first 2 minutes talking about how fabulous we were. Everything from what we did from an implementation and rollout side to Melissa, everything that Puma has done on your team. She talked about both sides of the house and the excellence with which we managed their rollout, their deployment, and the support that we've provided. And so that is somebody, when we're looking for who we can connect with, looking at their people, finding out who's in their database with other psychiatric facilities, and now we can go become friends with them as well. And they will give us referrals. They will refer us into the people they are connected to.
And I hope that Monica will get a couple of statements from them that we could use, as a case study or a use case. That's always good. Sorry, that's the marketing person in me going, oh, that's fabulous.
Let me
Okay,
just
we got
say,
about
Monica will repost them. Y'all, I need each one of you. Amanda, let's go back to Mike at CMS. Let's go back to the Jonesboro for bus. Go get Rob, go get the Fruit Loops. Go get, I can't remember their names, so they're just Fruit Loops. Go get referrals so that you can get out there and drive more.
All right. Referrals, huge, 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 but that's a whole marketing discussion in itself. I'm just going to go through a really quick example. So I'm saying it's a premier example, but it's actually, this is actually a Janet example. Kelly Jones was out there posting, totally matched our ICP, and Janet was kind of following her. And this happened a number of years ago, but it still works well. They were talking about remote work at the time. Remember back in the remote work days? Yep. It was a different world then. And she worked at Microsoft, which is, we love to work with Microsoft too. I know. So she made a post, and Janet actually made a very thoughtful post on her post. Talk about challenging times, talk about seeing the same trends, those kind of things. And Kelly Jones is going to look and say, who is Janet Chines? Boom, 24,000 followers. Oh, maybe I need to get to know her. She's really connected, because we like that as humans. We like that. So we don't just say great post, we add something, right? And then they go look. And then Janet did her own post talking about remote work and tagged Kelly Jones in it and said, hey, Kelly was talking about this. Here's something else that goes along with it. So all of the things I talked about, right? Tagged on her post, shared something similar, tagged Kelly in it, et cetera, et cetera. Then she sends out the invitation to connect, not immediately as soon as she found her. Right? Hey, I enjoyed your post. I liked engaging with you. I saw that you and Tiffany Bova and I are all connected. I think we should connect. Let's fix that. And then within 11 minutes, Kelly connected with Janet. Now, can you always say 11 minutes? No, it just so happened that way, right? Because she happened to be online. Not everybody's on LinkedIn all the time. That's not it. But the idea here is you have at least a little bit of a relationship. I say this all the time, and I don't know if it resonates with everybody. I've been married for a really, 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 really long time. I wasn't around.
Not
when
really, really, really that old.
There was no online dating when I was a child. And so, but I often put this into today's online dating thing, right? Which is you go on, you look, you say, is this somebody I want to connect with? And maybe somebody reaches out, but then you go look at their profile before you go do it. Same thing here, except for it's all business, right? Is this somebody I want to be in a relationship with? That's what you think about. And then once you connect, you can figure out if you want to go for that cup of coffee. All right. By the way, 2 of my 3 kids met their spouses online. So I'm just going to say I'm a big believer in that. All right. But let's say you say, hey, I'd like to connect. And the person says nothing, right? Either typically they don't say anything, but they may say, nope, I don't want to connect with you. That's okay. You can follow them. You could still follow somebody. You're just not connected with somebody. And so you still see what they post. You just don't have the permission to do that online engagement with somebody. Now, if for some reason, I don't know, this was your bully in grade school and they're like, oh, I'm afraid of what Barb's going to say to me, something like that. You can block people on LinkedIn, but that rarely happens on this platform. I've never really heard about it too much, but on this, if somebody doesn't respond, maybe the guy from Borton Farms or Borton and Sons, he's not on at all and he doesn't do anything. You don't necessarily want that, that invitation just to sit out there. And I just want to make sure you can go in and withdraw your request. All right. So go to manage my network. Up in the upper right-hand corner, there's something that says manage. And then you can go down and you could say there are invitations you received and the invitations you sent, go to the ones you sent, and then you could withdraw those. Now, this is actually from mine. And Dan Wengler redid my kitchen, and he's a local businessman who I'd love to do more business in my hometown. And I can't believe that he didn't accept my request. By the way, I have re-requested and he still hasn't done it. And I run into him every once in a while and I tease him about it all the time. He's just not really on LinkedIn. But you don't want these things to sit out there forever and ever, right? So some of you may know Roger. Roger's in the partner community. I don't know why he didn't connect with me. We've been on panels together, but I haven't really reached out to him. Okay. So it's okay. There's no harm, no foul, but you could withdraw it. And then later on, you can reconnect, maybe when you've had more engagement with their posts or something like that. All right. So we know who to go after now, and we know a bunch of different ways to connect, and we know what works. We could talk about what works best for us. And then we know if it's not working out so well, we should follow the people and maybe withdraw, and then we can connect later on. Okay. But what do we do once we're connecting? Now, we only have a few minutes left. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but I am going to say a couple of things in the next week. We'll talk about engagement and what type of content and how often and how to create it. Okay. Do not pitch in the first engagement. Do not sell. Would you ask somebody to marry you? Now you know why I said those other things. On the first date, maybe you would, but I would suggest it's not the best strategy going forward. Okay. So just offer like, hey, thanks for connecting. That's a good one. That's it. Aren't you glad when somebody just says, thanks for connecting? And then maybe you reach out a little while later and you say, hey, I know we're in the same industry. I just wanted to share something with you. I'm not selling to you. You don't say I'm not selling to you, but we have this case study, or I know people with your job title are really concerned about keeping students safe. Of course, I mean, say something a little bit more ingenious than that. And I saw this article and I thought maybe it would be helpful. Share something like that. It's not about you in these first couple of engagements. Okay. Monitor the activity. Sales Navigator is really good for that. If you've just connected with somebody, make sure you have a list of those folks on there so that you can see. So every morning when you go in and do your 10 or 15 minutes of LinkedIn, you can say, oh, look at Barb just posted something here. I want to say something on that post, right? So monitor activity, engage as appropriate, authentically, genuinely, but don't sell yet. 2 or 3 exchanges. See how the relationship's going. And then when they do show some interest, when they say, thanks, that was really interesting. This is what's going on with us. Then you can say, oh, you're having that issue. So this is what I've seen work before. If you're interested in more information, I can share it with you, right? When you share something, you're totally focused on what their challenge is, what their pain point is, what are they trying to accomplish, okay? And what you've seen work before, and if you have proof points, it's even better, right? We're giving 200 officers priority network access, something along those lines, right? Something, facts, figures, numbers, always good, right? That's what you want to give them. And then when they react to that, then you ask for, hey, maybe we should jump on a call and talk about things, okay? Think of getting that sales call as like closer to engagement, right? Closer to saying, will you marry me? Because when you marry me is let's do a deal together, right? But closer to that. But you want to get to know each other first. And by the way, think of it as a way to gather information from this prospect. Do they have a project? Are they ready now? Is your solution the right solution for them? Are they the right person? Is there somebody else within their company? Right? Those kind of things. All right. So we don't stop at a connection, definitely. But we also don't, we call it pouncing. Some people call it pitch slapping. Yes, pitch with a P. I like to call it pouncing. Don't pounce. Create that. Okay. Any
Throw
questions on
something
that?
else out.
Go ahead.
I'm going to throw something else out to y'all, a challenge. When was the last time we just talked about looking at other people's contacts and connections? When was the last time you looked at yours?
Good point.
When was the last time you looked at yours to find transportation directors like Mario? I just found that you actually have quite a few, right? Senior leaders and things like that. You have a really good place to be able to go into yours and say, hey, Barb, just wanted to let you know that I've moved. I'm now working with Premier Wireless. They're a blah, 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 phenomenal organization. And just want you to know if I can ever be of service, don't hesitate to reach out. So then it's just an informational data bada bing. Rob, you could still probably do that with yours because there's a lot of people in your ecosystem from when you were at US Cellular and that don't know you're here yet. And it's been 5 months, but
Plenty,
yeah.
that's
And then
still plenty
Amanda,
early. Yeah.
you've been here for a long time, but you could go back and say, hey, we haven't chatted for a while. Not sure if you've seen the latest on T-Mobile's T-Satellite. Here's some information. Just want to make sure that you've got this info. Right? So absolutely no harm, no foul. Everybody won't respond back. You will be amazed at the amount of people that do.
And put a link into the website, to the Premier's website. Because they may go look at the website and say, what's Premier Wireless all about? Right? And Monica should be able to, not individuals, but she should be able to see if there's a uptick in visits. Okay.
New
And if
site
there's
is
relevant-
launched, Barb. Not sure if you saw that.
Oh no, I gotta go look. Oh, thank you for telling me that. Okay. So I hope this was as helpful as last time. The first one always gets like the best kudos because that's all about like just, prettying up your profile. And Mario, if you have any questions on that, when you go back and look at that, just let me know. Okay. Or if anybody else does too. But now, okay, so now we look good. And now we're going to look good to the right people. And we know how to get them to engage with us. And next time we're going to talk about, okay, Now, how do we move it from prospect to qualified, right? We're going to talk about how do we move ourselves from looking good on paper to being that thought leader. We're going to talk about posting and engaging. Okay. So 10 prospects, everybody find 10 prospects. Everybody go back through and look at who's trying to connect with you and give me the worst of connection requests, because we want it to be fun too, right? That's kind of fun. All right. And then make sure that you're doing 10 to 15 minutes a day, logging in, prospecting, and engaging. Okay. And engaging with those, especially with those that you want to connect with. All right. And then start thinking about what we're going to do when we start doing that outreach. Think about what content is most valuable to your prospects, right? And, identify a couple, case studies, blogs, solutions, because for your content, you're going to want to like create something around there and say, hey, here's a blog post on blah, blah, blah. Or maybe Monica has some LinkedIn articles that you can share. So you're going to want to get familiar with that content. Make sure you have it, make sure you know where to find it. And when we get together next week, we'll talk about that. And is it June 17th? It's not June 17th is our next workshop. It's June 12th. I don't know why I
June
said
12th.
June 17th. So it's June 12th. Don't listen to this. This is how I make sure that you're all paying attention to me. Next Friday, same bat time, same bat station. Okay.
Really fast. I want to run around the loop here, and I want everybody to tell me one thing that you took away from today and learned new. Amanda.
I got a lot of notes. I would say to not necessarily just accept everybody who adds you, because that's one thing that I do to
I'm going to
raise
give you,
my
I'm going to say
numbers.
one thing about that. If you have less than 500 connections, go ahead and add them, because you want to get it over the 500 connection thing. I know that's when I'm like, not that genuine. I get it, but get to 500 and then be picky. Go
Okay.
on all the first
Yeah.
dates and then be picky. Sorry. And I didn't realize I
Rob.
wasn't sharing slides, so I apologize for that. Go ahead.
That's okay. You can quit sharing now because we got this one.
Okay.
So we know when we're coming back. All right, Rob.
The group search with parentheses. I didn't know about the parentheses and being able to search that way. That was good. I knew most of them, but not that one. Helpful.
Melissa.
The Boolean search, definitely all of that information was helpful.
Betsy's bobbing her head like an apple.
Same thing,
So
Boolean
Betsy?
search. Yeah.
Mario.
The follow first and then connect. I was totally doing the opposite. I would follow and kind of get impatient with not getting a connection, and I just once I got the connection, I unfollowed. So I like your approach better.
Good.
I'm going to second Melissa with the searching. I've always been terrible at that, so knowing filters will be helpful.
Margaret.
I went back and withdrew old invitations somebody didn't accept, so I already did it. And then
Good.
seeing other people's seconds, I didn't think about doing it that way. I go the other way. I notice they're a second, and then I figure out who's the first, but never the other way.
Yeah. It's being able to dig in. I have made quite a few good connections over the years doing that. The other one nobody mentioned is how to start a conversation so that you improve your connections, right? So that you've got genuine. And so my gut is there was new information in that for everyone today and some ideas around it. So think through that. Barb, appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
For my
I'm-
team, I'm going to go ahead and quit recording now. I will be sending out via GoCo later